This chapter deepens the spiritual tension, intensifies the horror imagery, and starts pulling Malachi into the prophetic dream realm where Kariel waits and the creature grows stronger. Chapter 2, The First Dreamwalker. Malachi slept uneasily that night, drifting in and out of shallow dreams until one finally caught hold of him. It pulled him downward with a slow, deliberate grip, as if invisible hands were lowering him into deep water. His body relaxed, but his mind sharpened into painful clarity. In the darkness of sleep, Chicago reshaped itself, bending and twisting into a version of the city that felt both familiar and wrong. The skyline appeared jagged, leaning at angles that defied logic. The train tracks curved like ribs above him. Streetlights flickered with a sickly gold glow, their halos pulsing like heartbeat monitors. Malachi stood in the middle of it all, barefoot on cracked pavement that shifted under his feet like skin. He knew instantly that he was dreaming, but the dream felt heavier than usual, as though it had weight and breath. A cold wind slid against his back, prompting him to look toward the horizon, where the lake glimmered with a pale, unnatural light. The water churned without sound. The sky overhead rippled like a veil stretched too thin. Everything felt on the verge of breaking. As Malachi took a step forward, the city contracts around him like lungs exhaling. He heard whispers between buildings, voices speaking in tones that made the air vibrate. Some of the voices sounded like strangers. Others sounded like people he had once trusted. A few sounded like him. The whispers formed no words he could understand, but they carried a rhythm, a pattern, as if repeating something ancient. Each step he took pulled him deeper. The dream shifted suddenly. Without warning, he stood on the Green Line platform at an impossible hour, when no trains should have been running. The tracks below glowed faintly. A train screeched in the distance, approaching too fast, yet never arriving. Malachi's body tensed. He sensed movement behind him and turned sharply. The platform was empty, but a long shadow stretched across the concrete, creeping toward him in slow, hunting strokes. Before he could react, a voice echoed down the platform, soft yet unmistakable. "You feel it growing, do you not?" Malachi spun around and found Kariel standing under the flickering station lights. The figure looked almost human tonight, wrapped in a coat that seemed woven from darkness and gold threads. His eyes, however, were unmistakable, burning with a steady light that cut through the dream haze. "Kariel," Malachi breathed, relief mixing with dread. "What is happening to me?" Kariel walked toward him with a grace that seemed to part the air itself. "You have stepped into the dream realm fully, Malachi, not by accident, but by necessity. Something is rising on the other side of your consciousness, something you tried to bury but never healed." He reached out his hand, and the lights overhead flickered more violently as if reacting to his presence. "Your dreams are no longer resting places. They have become battlegrounds." Malachi swallowed hard, his breath clouding in the dream's cold air. "I saw it," he whispered. "The creature. It was made of pieces of my life." Kariel's expression flickered with sympathy. "The creature is formed from memory, trauma, and all the darkness you survived. It learned to crawl in the places where you bled, and now it learns to walk because your spirit is weary." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You must understand, Malachi, this is not merely a nightmare. It is an echo of the man you could have become had you surrendered to your wounds." Malachi's stomach tightened. Then why is it free now? Why is it showing up in the real world? Kariel's gaze drifted past him, toward the approaching train that never quite reached the platform. "Because the barrier between your inner world and the waking world has been weakened. Something in you broke open. Fear, exhaustion, loneliness, these cracks invited it to surface. The creature senses opportunity. It seeks connection. It seeks recognition." Kariel paused, meeting Malachi's eyes with a weight that made the air feel heavy. "And it seeks you." The platform rumbled beneath their feet. The train in the distance screeched louder, sparks flying from invisible rails. Malachi felt the dream warping, tightening, shifting again. He tried to speak, but the words died in his throat as the shadow behind him stretched farther, gaining shape. He turned slowly. The darkness rose, assembling itself into a tall, twisted figure. Its limbs were formed from overlapping fragments of memory, a broken toy he once loved, the outline of his father's departing silhouette, the harsh glare of streetlights seen through tears. Its face was a patchwork mosaic of all the people who had hurt him, blurred together until their expressions became one single, terrible stare. Malachi stumbled backward, breath caught in panic. The creature moved without making a sound. Its long arm extended, fingers trembling like loose wires. The air around it warped, carrying the smell of cold lake water and old smoke. Malachi tried to run, but his legs felt heavy, as though submerged in thick mud. Kariel stepped between them, lifting his hand. A burst of light erupted, casting long shadows across the dream city. The creature recoiled, seams trembling, its body flickering like a weak signal. It retreated a few paces, tilting its head as if studying them, then slowly sank into the floor, melting into darkness like ink dissolving in water. The dream shuddered violently. Buildings bent inward. The sky cracked with a sound like glass splitting. Kariel grabbed Malachi's arm firmly. "You must wake now," he commanded. "The creature grows stronger with each passing night. Soon it will no longer need the dream to find you." Malachi opened his mouth to ask how he could stop it, but the dream crumbled around him before he could form the words. He jolted awake in his bed, drenched in sweat, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might break through his ribs. The room was dark, the air thick and cold. As he gasped for breath, he noticed something chilling on the floor beside him, a small puddle of lake water, shimmering faintly in the moonlight. And lying in the center of it was another scrap of stitched fabric. This time, it spelled out the beginning of a word, torn and frayed at the edges. A single letter, M. Malachi stared at it with a sinking feeling. The creature was not just coming. It was calling him by name.